Hello, everyone, and welcome to Week 5 of XLNC's Mid-League. The Mac is back, and joining me on the analyst for tonight's Mid-League action is none other than Icarus. Tonight, we've got Divine Ascension Obsidian taking on Death Cards Academy. How are you feeling about this matchup, my guy?
I'm pretty excited. This is the first time we're going to see both of these teams on stream. We do have both of them coming off of an interesting past week here. DAO, unfortunately, taking that 0-3 versus CB Rush, but they are a top contending team here. They're looking to take first place, but Death Cards Academy had a very successful last week here. They're able to actually pick up a couple of wins versus Degenerates Reformed, dropped the third game, though, so they're feeling pretty good coming into this week.
Yeah, and funny enough, Divine Ascension Obsidian 3-9 going into this game, but they've been consistent, Icarus. 3-0-3s, but 1-3-0. Funny enough, against Degenerates Reformed, so we'll have to see tonight, actually, if they're going to be able to whip out some more Divine Ascension magic, but they've got a lot of substitutes coming into tonight's show match. What Are You Doing from the Ruby squad last season is coming back into the top lane. We have Risky actually moving down from the top lane to the ADC role, and Just Joshin is coming in as the substitute support, excuse me, coming in. Now we've got the draft pulled up here, Icarus. We've seen the first phase of bans as well as some picks to start us off.
Yeah, and it's kind of standard bans across the board here. I am curious to see the Hecarim that has been banned out here by Divine Ascension Obsidian. Not the strongest champion underneath the tool belt. We also do have the Vel'Koz and Shaco bans coming in from Death Cards Academy, which are just going to be targeted specifically at the mid laner and jungler of DCA here. Don't want to let those obnoxious champions get through here. Running down the list of what we do have seen so far, though, Nautilus first pick. I personally love to see it with the recent Nautilus changes that came out here, but it's going to be paired alongside the Xayah and Corki, and meanwhile Death Cards Academy will be picking up the Diana, the Lee Sin, and the Zyra for themselves.
That Zyra pick coming out once again for Uwu Cthulhu. Gonna be checking the player stats here, if possible, if I can find it on the spreadsheet, but I know that's been a comfort pick for Uwu Cthulhu coming in through this season. It's been catching some of these teams off guard, Icarus, and really kind of what I'm thinking, honestly, it's been allowing Death Cards Academy to really pick up some surprise wins against some of the better teams here that we thought were going to really pop off in mid-league, because they were 2-1 against No Fear Wolves, as well as 2-1 versus Fever.
Yeah, and I think Death Cards Academy has gotten really under the radar for a lot of the viewers and for a lot of us casters too. They've been putting up good performances every single week. Even when they're not coming out with a victorious scoreline, they're at least managing to pick up one win. And so they're currently tied for second place here within the league. And not enough people are giving them the credit for it. I do like to see that Divine Ascension Obsidian has been pinching AD carries throughout this second ban phase here, because that is going to be the last pickup here for DC8. Now, I was looking through these champion pools a little bit here, and I want to see if DAO locks in a couple of more tanks for themselves. We might see, and this is just between you and me, Mac, we might see a Vayne getting played later.
Oh my goodness, just between you and me, my guy. We've got Ornn locked in for phase number 4, or phase 2 here, coming in, the red 4 pick coming in for DCA. Where do you think this Lee Sin is going? We've got an interesting draft coming through.
We would have to wait and see champ select, because it's going to depend whether it's going into the mid lane or the jungle. It could really go either direction. Diana can also go into either role here. I do think that the Ornn is locked in top lane. I do think that the Zyra will be locked in bottom lane. I do know that this Kai'Sa pick is, fairly standard, fairly comfort. I'm just personally not a huge fan of Zyra. I think I would have preferred to see the Vayne. But it is just a fairly standard champion that's been played a lot. I think that's seen too many nerfs, though, and that people are just playing it for comfort more than anything else. But it is a great way to round out this composition for DCA.
Uwu for Cthulhu. Icarus, I've got the stats pulled up, my man. We've got the live stats. I'm popping off right now. Let's see. Zyra, 1 game, 1 victory. Didn't do too bad on it. Alrighty. I'm excited to see it come out once again, see if he can find some more success. He's going to be really, really challenged to do so, though, against that Xayah Nautilus in the bot lane. What do you think about the bot lane matchup here for us tonight for game number 1?
I actually think it's good to be the Xayah Seraphine. The Nautilus has to be getting flexed into the jungle here, unless they decide to run Darius jungle with Nautilus support and Seraphine mid and Corki top. It doesn't make sense to me.
Jungle. Oh my goodness!
Imagine the big brain the big brain flexing coming out by DAO here, but it will be the Xayah Seraphine, a very safe bottom lane for DAO. I'm very curious to see this Nautilus jungle, though, because we haven't had a chance to see it yet, and we were talking about it last week on the analyst desk, or at least I brought it up a couple of times during the pre-show, saying that, you know, I want to see this pick. I want to see how Nautilus in jungle is going to get played and how you can use it as a flex pick here. And potentially on my radar as probably the most annoying champion. We were talking about annoying game champions earlier, but what are you going to do with the dredge line into the depth charge from the full tick Nautilus jungle if he starts popping off here? I have to keep my eyes out for that one, to be sure.
And on top of that, do want to add Saturation. Not the first time he's pulled out the not jungle Icarus. 1 game, 1 loss. Hoping to improve on his 4 kill, 4 death, 5 assist performance on it earlier in the season. Do want to point out, what are you doing? Again, back in the mid league. He's coming in off of the bench. He's on this Darius pick going into Fug Nuggler, who's been looking really, really good in the top lane. He's been handling business for the Death Cards Academy. How do you feel about this matchup here in the top lane, Icarus?
That is a really, really tough matchup for Fug Nuggler in the top lane. Ornn into Darius. Darius is a classic counter pick, and really the big reason that Ornn hasn't been blind pickable in the top lane, and we do see it getting picked up on R4 here, which is unfortunate, because now he does have to face off against that Bleed champion in the top lane. I need to see Fug Nuggler play extremely safe in this matchup. He needs to not be throwing away his life trying to take fights versus DAO, because versus a Nautilus who can hook you in as well and just keep you CC trained so that Darius can wail down on you and get those bleed stacks, it's going to be impossible for him to ever play aggressive. I do want to see, however, for the side of DCA, I want to see them play around this bottom lane, because there's not a whole lot that Seraphine and Xayah can do if you're able to get on top of them. With either Diana or Lee Sin in the jungle, you have the Zyra route for follow-up, and Kai'Sa can jump in using that killer instinct. Play aggressively around this bottom lane, play around Galaki, and you're going to be looking to shut down this Xayah and Seraphine before they have the potential to scale up into the mid game.
Well, I do want to point out for you, Icarus, Fug Nuggler not dying on that Ornn has been his motto so far through 2 games. He's got 2 victories on the champion and has got a 22 KDA to show for it. And looking at Galaki Meep on this Kai'Sa pick, a lot of comfort coming through for the Death Cards Academy squad. He's got 1 win on the champion so far. Only a 4-5-14 performance, but that's a pretty solid KDA. We'll have to see if this time around on the Rift, it's going to be his time to shine on the champion. Looking at the side of Divine Ascension Obsidian, they got a lot of late game scaling, I think, with the Corki, with the Xayah. Are you feeling these are their main carries for the match? Void, who's been pretty consistent, what are you thinking about his odds on stepping up here on the Rift?
I'm looking really forward to seeing how DAO is able to play this game, especially around that mid game, as you mentioned. They got a couple of scaling AD carries. They got Seraphine, who's likely to provide heals for her frontline, and Nautilus and Darius. Overall, it's a very solid composition. The only thing I'm afraid of, though, is what happens when Ornn starts building a ton of armor here. There's not a whole lot of magic damage coming in. Corki does 70%, but you can still just lock in the ninja tabbies, deal with the Darius, deal with Corki, Xayah all in the top lane. Seraphine will provide some CC along with Nautilus, so it's a pretty well-rounded composition, but when you build those ninja tabbies, you get rid of your damage sources here in the Corki, in the Xayah, in this Darius, and it's going to be really hard for them to melt through the front line, especially if DCA gets set up on an objective first and allows Ornn to get the free Ornn Horn put down.
Well, We better buckle in, Icarus, because we've been talking about a little bit of scaling action for Divine Ascension Obsidian, and funny enough, both of these teams are the only teams so far in the mid-league through 4 weeks to have 6+ hours on the Rift in terms of game time. These guys like their long matches, around 30+ minute action. I'm expecting a really fun back and forth series for our show match this week. Week 5 mid-league action coming right up. Divine Ascension Obsidian on the blue side going up against Death Cards Academy. Icarus and Cam. Oh no, not Icarus and Cam. We're mixing up the duos a little bit. It's going to be Cam and Gunjin this time on the Rift, bringing you guys the cast. Don't click out of that browser. We'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are here with game 1 of our week 5 series. We have Divine Ascension Obsidian on blue side in this game 1, and we have Death Cards Academy on red side this game. We have a very interesting draft, it looks like, this game. I'm definitely excited to see what we have in our early levels this fight.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to cast this series. I think that a lot of this series is going to kind of be dependent on these early games. I know Death Cards Academy, especially from just listening to Fug and talking with him, he loves playing around that early game style. And I love that they've picked this Diana jungle. Again, not an early game champion, but she's going to be able to clear so much faster than Saturation on this Nautilus that she's going to be really able to affect some of these lane states a lot earlier on. And I'm excited to see what this mid lane matchup does. Again, we haven't seen the Corki versus Lee Sin way too often. And if you said a year ago that Corki and Lee Sin would be playing in the mid lane, I would call you crazy. But here we are with Patrick piloting the Lee Sin, and the amount of damage that he's going to be able to get off if the Diana can kind of path there, especially in the early side, is going to be really important. So we have the scaling advantage for the side of Divine Ascension Obsidian, but for the side of Death Cards Academy, they've kind of picked what they like to do. Around that early game, they're going to have a fast clearing jungle, and they have two lanes that they can really gank for and blow up the other side.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be interested to see this Nautilus versus Diana matchup in the jungle specifically, because they just buffed Nautilus in the jungle, right? But that doesn't mean that he has a particularly strong clear. It just means, well, his ganks are going to be really annoying because of how much his CC is. But other than that, his clear is not going to be anywhere near Diana's speed. And something that I'd like to note is Fug Nuggler did not buy items on Ornn. I don't know if that was intentional, but he only has a refillable pot right now.
So the strat on Ornn is that you just farm the first wave with refillable, and then you can get the 450 gold for the D shield. And so it just kind of plays out where he can just basically get a refillable early on. Doesn't have too. I mean, Ornn doesn't get killed anyway early on, and it'll just be a pick of the D shield like he does there, and just kind of lane with double pots basically. So it's a strat that most Ornn mains do top lane, and it's just cool to see Fug try it out. I am excited to see what the pathing, especially the jungle wise, is, because you see that Sterling Archer has gone for pretty much the full jungle clear and is going to be pathing bot lane really early on, and I'm excited to see what they end up doing, because again, we have two ranged bot laners that we haven't seen much. Obviously Seraphine did dominate the meta, but mostly dominated from the mid lane position, kind of augmenting those speed champions like I called them with the Udyr and Hecarim. With those champions kind of being out of the meta, she has moved back into that bot lane role where she is strong, but if Uwu ever ends up landing that Zyra E or any of the Zyra CC, he just gets blown up instantly. So this bot lane is going to be a really big point of focus for the side of Death Cards Academy. Top lane though, ooh, what a fight.
Fug Nuggler already having to burn the flash on the Ornn there, but he does have spellbook, so it is not going to be a huge deal. But this has not been patched yet. I'm not sure if this has been talked about in the analysis desk, but on the first smite that you get from spellbook, it is going to be 900 damage, which you can get that at 6 minutes before that first dragon. But there is still the bug where every other smite after your first smite is going to be a 450 smite, which is not what Riot intended at all. So I'm not sure if he knew that when he took spellbook.
Oh, I'm excited to see if Fug does a little bit of cheesing. Anytime I call his name, I always feel awkward saying Fug, but Fug Nuggler, I'm excited to see what he ends up doing with that smite, because it can get a little bit cheesy if they end up pathing for that Rift Herald, but it looks like Saturation just gonna visit up there. Again, for the side of Divine Ascension Obsidian, with the lanes that they have picked up, they do have that scaling mid and bot lane, as we see a little bit of a fight, but they have a scaling mid and bot side, but they want to play safe and kind of give a lot of that attention to this Darius pick, because when you pick a Flash Ghost Darius, that screams to all of us in game, all of the casters as well, that they're looking to fight and they're looking to snowball through that top side. So I'm excited to see what kind of attention Saturation does bring down there, but he has kind of now pathed around the bot side, and they could be looking for some sort of play around this bot lane river.
Yeah, you definitely don't take Ghost if you're playing for the late game. You're taking lane. You want to run down your enemy. In this lane, it is going to be that Ornn that he's trying to run down. He does have he is down CS and XP at the moment. He is only sitting on that coal with 3 CS on it, but if he is able to find that lead early on, then he is going to be doing a lot more damage in these later team fights than the Ornn will.
Yeah, he definitely is going to be able to kind of get into the front line, and with Saturation being able to lock down members, and a lot of kind of squishiness of this bot lane with Galagi and Uwu on this Kai'Sa Xayah, they're going to be pretty squishy, and it looks like Saturation is setting up for a bot lane dive, but I think they're going to be caught out.
Yeah, they are definitely looking to find this hook onto Galaki. That's going to be the E going onto Zyra. She's already forced to flash away. This is both TPs coming down from Death Cards Academy. They're already going to be trying to find this first kill into Saturation, trying to run away. Almost barely might just live with the 1 HP, but that is going to be first blood going over to Sterling Archer on this Diana pick.
Yeah, they call the double TPs down, and that's kind of the problem. When you do end up picking up this Flash Ghost, you don't have that cross-map pressure. Fug is able to teleport down, counter the gank from Saturation, and now it looks like Sterling Archer is going to be kind of perfect place, perfect time. Picks up the first blood, picks up this dragon as well, and now there's a sizable lead for the side of Death Cards Academy. 5 minutes in with a 1.5k gold lead and first dragon to start getting that early dragon stacking ready.
Yeah, it's definitely very nice to find that first blood on the Diana. Lee Sin and Kai'Sa were just chasing it a little bit too much and barely let her live.
Ooh, top lane!
Your Fug Nuggler actually hits level 6 before what are you doing, and is able to pick up a sneaky solo kill underneath his own tower.
And where have you seen the Ornn first, or this Ornn solo kill right there? Fug Nuggler doing it all, teleporting down bot to change the state of the fight, and also coming back into his lane and gets the solo kill. What great play by Fug Nuggler on this Ornn. He is going to be able to swap over to that Ignite, wanting to get even more solo kills up there. But again, you do not want this to be happening, because Water on this Darius pick is kind of where you wanted to play around in the early game, and so now that he's fallen behind, and especially in the top side, I like to call it this arc. It's kind of like a graph where for Ornn versus Ornn lanes, there's a kind of a graph where you have to be just a little bit ahead of the Ornn to ever have any sort of kill threat. And if Ornn gets those early solo kills, it's going to be really hard, but Lee Sin is going to be looking for that all-in onto the Corki.
He is going to land that Q onto Void. He's going to try and chase down this kill. He's already finding the flash out of Void. Finds enough damage with the zone kick, and that's going to be a little bit of a sneaky solo kill for Patrick Jones and is in the enemy jungler there.
Yeah, Patrick was just able to catch Void just walking a little bit too far to get wards down in that mid side, catches him, flashes, and again, Void ends up burning the flash and also still does end up dying. And now this is kind of a prime position where the flash is down for the Corki, and with Lee Sin having so much, kind of that immense early game damage, especially whenever he has his kick up, this should be kind of prime position for Sterling Archer to kind of just camp Void in this mid lane and really shut down any sort of scaling advantage that they have in that lane.
Yeah, and Zyra's going to find her own route onto saturation. They're not going to find a lot of damage, though, from it, as she is still level 5 to saturation's level 6. And as you were talking, Sterling Archer actually found a gank onto Water in the top lane and just burned his ghost by being in the lane. She did nothing but look at him, and he burned his ghost to run away. So that was a little bit of interesting.
And you can kind of see the difference in what the styles of both these junglers are. Obviously, Saturation is going to have a kind of a lower economy jungler that's going to be really able to affect these team fights with the CC. But you can see kind of the power that is this Diana pick, because he's kind of just sprinting around the map, making ganks happen. But top lane, great flash from Water to make sure that he doesn't get solo killed twice. Who would have thought that I would be saying those words? But here we are, and it feels like the state of the game, or kind of the tempo advantage, is just all Death Cards Academy, especially in that early game. Saturation is trying to get something done in this bot side, but as this is happening, Sterling Archer is picking up that Rift Herald, and with Lee Sin having control in the mid, with Ornn having control in the top side, this is just kind of free early game for the side of Death Cards Academy. We are going to be kind of transitioning into a little bit of a mid-game stage where, again, there isn't much happening, but a lot of the lanes are just kind of swinging in favor.
And they might be looking to drop this first Rift Herald in the mid lane as well, trying to get a little bit more gold onto their mid and jungle. But Saturation is going to be finding a gank into the spot lane. Already both Earl ults burnt, trying to find this kill onto Zyra. Risky's able to find out. Galaxy trying to run underneath his tower, but that's going to be so much CC. It's so hard to run away. But Sterling Archer is here for the counter gank, already picking up a double kill for himself. That's going to be a triple kill for Sterling Archer. Such a nice counter gank. Corki on Void on Corki is going to find this TP just to try and watch his team die. That was a 3-for-1 in the favor of Death Cards Academy.
And I love putting titles on games, and I might be doing it a little bit prematurely, but it feels like right place at the right time is kind of what's happening for the side of Death Cards Academy. Sterling Archer with a beautiful play right there, gets the level 6, is able to just bang out every single member, picks up the 4-0, he has the shutdown, he has all the gold, and it feels like the Divine Ascension Obsidian are just falling behind the curve, and this is exactly what Death Cards Academy want to do. I've talked to Fug about this and how they like playing, especially in the early game, and it's this fast tempo style where they just blitz you down in all of these lanes. They're winning the lanes individually, and Sterling Archer with this fast farming Diana is able to kind of affect every side of the map without losing tempo or even losing kind of the camp rotation. So he has the massive CS lead on Saturation, sitting at the 32 CS lead, but he's also able to kind of affect all of these lanes, but just by being there at the correct place at the correct time. Great play by Death Cards, and now they have a sizable 4K gold lead at 10 minutes.
It's definitely a massive gold lead, having 5 kills up on Divine Ascension Obsidian already, and 4 of them being on the Diana pick alone, sitting on that 450, already having a item, Nashor's Tooth already on her. They are going to be able to find the second dragon fairly easily. That's going to be Infernal for them, and it will be a Mountain Soul this game, which is going to be so powerful on the Zorn if he is able to find it.
Yeah, the Mountain Soul is definitely going to be powerful, and the big problem now for the side of Divine Ascension Obsidian is because you have a late game scaling comp where Corki obviously wants to hit his 2 items, the Mythic plus the Muramana, or whatever item he ends up wanting to go to, and Risky does want to end up picking up the 3 items, finally being able to pick up the LDR later to cut through the Ornn, but they're not going to get to that stage because this dragon is going to spawn it 22 minutes as a bot lane play happens.
Oh no, Sterling Archer trying to dive this bot lane here, doing so much damage onto Just Joshing. They're gonna have to burn so much just to find the 1 kill onto Seraphine, and meanwhile, Risky's actually gonna find that shutdown onto Sterling Archer on the very unfortunate dive. So low HP bars for the side of Death Cards Academy here. That's going to be the flash and missed hook from Saturation. Gonna try and just get a little bit of CC out at all. That's actually going to be the TP coming out from Fug Nuggler in the top lane. It was canceled there. Galakeep finding yet another kill onto Saturation. So hard to play this Nautilus in lane, man.
Yeah, and it felt like Death Cards went just a little bit over aggressive on that bot lane tower dive, and they weren't synced up with a lot of the Diana ultis, with the Kai'Sa ulti kind of jumping in. And Risky is able to pick up the big shutdown on the Diana, but again, you see kind of this, it feels like Death Cards just always come over to these plays a lot quicker. Water was able to interrupt that Ornn TP, so it didn't end up going as badly as it could have, but at this point in the game, with the gold lead that Death Cards have kind of established and the vision control that they've established, as you can see in that bot side jungle, it feels like they have all control. It feels like they have tempo advantage, and the big point that I wanted to mention was that it looks like a solo kill top lane again.
It's not be quite the solo kill as Patrick Jones is here to find the last hit on it. Unfortunately, Fug Nuggler is not going to be finding his second solo kill. I mean, he did the damage, but I mean, Patrick Jones was there to just get that last auto and just to make sure that he's the one that picks up that kill.
I'm gonna give it to Fug there. I think that was a solo kill. Patrick just had to come in and ruin it. It looks like Saturation does want to play bot, but it feels like desperation right now because you can see the farm advantage is so skewed for the Diana. She has all control. She has all the vision established, and this Nautilus just can't farm fast enough. And on the other end, he can't get any good ganks off at this point because he's just falling behind tempo, he's falling behind farm, and right now it is a really brutal state that Divine Ascension Obsidian find themselves in the early game.
The one bonus, I think, of picking Nautilus jungle is you don't really have to farm a whole lot, because late game, if you are able to find that 1 hook, then you can possibly win the game off of just 1 hook, and you don't even need to find the CS early game. But, I mean, I definitely agree. At this point, he is unfortunately sitting at 0-3-0 at 62 CS to Diana's 111, basically doubling his CS at this point. But that is what a Diana is supposed to do. She's supposed to do all the damage, get all the farm, get all of the gold onto herself, just that she's able to do the damage that she needs, because without damage on a Diana, she's not as useful as no damage on a Nautilus.
Yeah, 100%. Saturation obviously did end up picking the lower economy jungler with the Nautilus pick. The big problem is, and again, you mentioned it, as this game kind of scales on, you will end up having the Corki and the Xayah pick up the items, and Nautilus is going to be a really good frontline for them. But the problem will be that Zyra just gets cut out and insta-killed. Uwu freaking Cthulhu did not have a chance to stand right there. That was definitely not Uwu at all in the bot lane. They just kind of jumped her. But back to the point. Again, you want to have that late game fantasy of getting your Corki and the Xayah scale, and then the Nautilus kind of become that big tanky frontline. But again, they have the double dragon stacking. You don't want to be giving up a mountain dragon to a Ornn comp. And at this point, at 22 minutes, there's gonna be a Dragon Soul scenario, and Divine Ascension Obsidian will have to fight for it.
We're looking at yet another solo kill in this top lane here, potentially Fug Nuggler
solo
to secure that, despite Patrick trying to flash. Alright, he's gonna barely survive that bleed. Patrick Flash literally just burned his own flash trying to secure yet another kill and was not able to find it that time.
Yeah, and Fug Nuggler just showing up what it likes to feel that top gap. The Ornn solo kills are coming back to back to back to back. Patrick tried to steal it, but he didn't end up stealing it from the hero Ornn in the top side. And as we get into that 15-minute mark, it is still a 5,000 gold lead in favor of Death Cards Academy. And as this dragon spawns in the next minute, it's going to get scarier and scarier. They do have the Corki package to try and set up a team fight, but it feels like they're so far behind in items and tempo that this just might not be enough.
Yeah, Obsidian is definitely going to have to start this engage off fairly soon before that Corki package runs out. Patrick Jones, it looks like he's caught out, but he is playing Nautilus, or Lee Sin even, so it's very hard to catch on Nautilus. That's going to be an excellent Seraphine ult.
Dino!
He gets absolutely one-shot Diana, doing so much damage. Sterling Archer in the backline doing so much damage right before he dies. Fug Nuggler is not able to find any damage as he does not have his ult up. That's going to be a nice route from Zyra, just stopping Void from charging into their team. And this is actually going to look like it is going to be Divine Ascension Obsidian's first dragon pickup of this game.
Divine Ascension Obsidian find kind of a crucial team fight. It felt like their backs were against the wall because, again, if they ended up giving over this dragon, this would be Mountain's or sole point for the side of Death Cards Academy. As Fug Nuggler just tries to get something cheeky, isn't going to be able to pick it up, and they end up picking up the Mountain Dragon. And now the best thing, regardless of the Mountain Dragon they pick up, is the time they've bought. Now this Mountain Soul timer will be now set at 26 minutes. At that point, the Corki and Zaya hopefully will have enough time to get those two items and try to kind of combat this front line. And the big thing that happened for that fight, which you mentioned, was that Corki package. Every single member on Death Cards Academy was like, let's just jump over and try to fight on Corki package, and they just got absolutely incinerated. They took so much damage, and you could see Sterling Archer found a great Diana ultimate, but it did not matter because that Corki package does a lot of damage, and he just wiped that team fight. Great team fight for Divine Ascension Obsidian, and they really kind of find a foothold in this game. They are still down 5k gold, don't get me wrong, but they're fighting pick after pick as they find this Diana pick.
They did find a pick onto Diana. Water is going to pick up his third kill of this game. Right before that last dragon fight, he was sitting at 0-3-0, and he's now sitting at 3-0 or 3-3-0, which is going to be a lot better. And he is able to find his first, almost second item now, as he is getting a little bit of a gold swing on this Darius. He might just start being able to do a little bit of damage in these team fights, as definitely if Seraphine is able to land another nice ult like she did in that fight, I think that the Darius pick is not completely in vain just yet. Yes, he got solo killed multiple times in lane, but I don't think that he's completely out of this game yet.
Cam, are you telling me that Darius might be finally able to solo kill the Ord in the top side? Will we finally see what this Ghost Flash Darius was picked to do? Or is it still going to be outscaled? In my opinion, I think Fug is still just outplaying him in the lane. So I don't expect the Darius to be that useful. But again, in these team fights, he is still a big frontline bruiser for these tanks. And with Saturation's help, Zyra is getting cut out and he's just going to die.
Oh no, Cthulhu again walking into this Tri Bush, trying to find any wards, but this is going to be a kill going over to Galaki, trying to find this 1v2 kill as his support has already died, already having that kill onto Void. Gonna actually look for this tower dive, picking up his own double kill in the bot lane, but Patrick Jones is finding a 1v1 for himself on this red buff. Gonna find the kick on Ricky, trying to find that last Q. There is gonna be the flash, and he gets the blind Q onto Risky, getting his own 1v1 kill on the red buff.
And Patrick said, what you can do, I can do better. Gets the solo kill onto Risky. And that play is all set up from the fact that, again, Divine Ascension Obsidian is still trying to cling on. They did get a crucial team fight around that first Mountain Dragon. But again, they still have lost pretty much all control of their red side jungle because, again, the mid lane outer tower is already destroyed. Death Cards Academy is able to establish complete vision control, or at least choke out the vision that Divine Ascension Obsidian is able to pick out. And again, they look for these fights, but it's just a little bit too uneven. And if you're the side of Divine Ascension Obsidian, I want to just scream to them that you can just chill out. You have the scaling comp. You don't need to be taking these fights, but Darius wants to take this team fight top.
Oh my gosh, he's able to do it. I believed in it. He is able to finally find that solo kill on the Fug Nuggler after losing his lane so hard to the Orn, who didn't even start with an item.
Hey man, I guess dreams do come true, and Water is telling me that these dreams are now a reality. He's able to pick up the solo kill, and that's huge because, again, if we get to a point where Fug can't hold Water in the side lane, then who can you send up there? Again, Patrick is strong at this point, but he still will probably die to Darius in that long side lane. He does end up breaking in this top lane outer tower, and this is a good gold injection for the side of Divine Ascension Obsidian. Dragon is going to be spawning in the next 2 minutes, or in the next minute, sorry, and this is going to be kind of that big objective, but they can kind of let it go. If they feel like they want to get to that Muramana phase for the Corki, if they want to get to that Essence Reaver for the Zyra, this is a dragon that you can let go. Don't have to fight for, just funnel as much farm into your carries, and then fight around that soul point. That's going to be the big objective for Divine Ascension Obsidian.
They could give it, but based on the way that this game is going, I don't expect that they will, especially considering Void did just pick up, oh my gosh, that Zyra damage. Void did just pick up the package on this Corki, so they could be looking to replicate the fight that they did last game, as we are seeing. Okay, I was gonna say, if you're recalling right there, that is not the recall spot that you wanted to take. So Obsidian is going to be trying to find any control over this mid lane. Fug Nuggler might actually be caught out here. He's gonna use that Call of the Forge God, such a huge diagonal into the backline, but there's no follow-up damage.
Water.
She's already going to be going down. Water finally doing damage in these team fights. Absolutely huge on this Darius. Saturation doing anything he can in the backline, doing a little bit of CC, but it's not going to be enough. That's going to be the double kill going over to Fug Nuggler, and so far it is just 2 dead from each side. We're still in a 3v3 in this mid lane. We're trying to find any damage we can. Water chasing down these fights with his ghost that he did take, and that's going to be unfortunately another missed hook, but it does look like that this is going to be the second Mountain Dragon going over to Divine Ascension Obsidian.
And what a beautiful engage by Fug and Sterling with the Diana ulti into the Ornn ulti combo. They're just going to fight again. We're going to see it back to back.
The fight is not over. Gallic going to be trying to find something here onto these 3 champions, but he's not going to be finding it. And it is actually potentially going to be this 3rd dragon going over to Death Cards Academy. I spoke too soon. They found the TP and they found the fight.
Yeah, they call in the double TP, and they're going to be able to pick up the Mountain Dragon to kind of set up that soul point around that 28-minute mark. Great team fight from the side of Fug and Sterling to get those big Ornn into Diana ulti combos, but you can see what Water can do in these team fights. He can't be bursted out by any member on the side of Death Cards Academy, and he has so much space to just stack up his Hemorrhage passive on the Darius and really look to kind of turn these team fights. It's getting close, and it's getting scary for the side of Death Cards Academy because they do have the 5k gold lead. They do have the 3 dragon stacking, but we're getting to a point where the Seraphine is able to augment the Darius so much that he's just running through these team fights and stacking up so much of his passive that he can just dunk left, right, and center.
And it is interesting to note that Seraphine did lose basically 3/4 of his HP before the fight even started. So if she's walking into a fight with at least 3/4 of her HP, which she very much did not that fight, then she's going to be way more helpful in healing up this Darius. As we already see, he started off 0-3-0 this game, and now he's sitting at 5-3-1, 200 gold bounty. He is really huge in these fights. He can't possibly die anymore. I'm saying that I'm going to speak too soon, of course, but he will be seeing so much Darius, or so much damage from this Darius in these team fights, as he is slowly picking up his 3rd item now.
And it feels like Death Cards Academy is setting up for a little bit of a trap, but it feels like Divine Ascension Obsidian at least have some sort of gauge of where they are, and Fug doesn't have TP, and Darius has walked down, so this could be a team fight for the side of Divine Ascension Obsidian.
Oh, that's going to be the Zyra just a little bit caught out. She's already forced to flash, and her entire HP bar is just already gone to this core.
Seraphine!
Excellent Seraphine ult. Sterling trying to do any damage he can on this Diana pick, but it is not enough anymore. He is not ahead anymore in this game. That is 3 kills going over to Divine Ascension Obsidian.
And again, a beautiful team fight for the side of Divine Ascension Obsidian, but if you're the side of Death Cards Academy, if Fug Nuggler doesn't seed Water in his lane, he needs to be calling out, Darius is missing, I can't TP. He wasn't able to TP into the team fight. He had already used it on that Mountain Dragon secure, and Death Cards Academy are just getting a little bit impatient, and at this point, again, the items are coming in for the carries, and Darius is looking for a solo kill, but Kaisa
trying to solo kill on the Kaisa. His ult is not going to find the execute, and Galaki's going to pick up his own solo kill. That's going to be a 250 shutdown onto this Kaisa pick, which is absolutely not what you want if you are the side of Divine Ascension Obsidian.
And as an AD carry meme, I just did a little bit of a fist pump in the air. I said, thank you, Galaxy, for showing up that Darius. Don't let him bully you in the side lane. He is able to pick up the kill, and it's going to be a big kind of shutdown for the side of Kaisa. The big thing I wanted to mention in that past team fight was that Galaxy was actually sitting on the 1600 gold. You called that he was kind of backing in an awkward position, and it was because he was sitting on a lot of gold before that team fight ended up starting. So again, it is problematic for the side of Death Cards that it is getting to a point where the carries, the double 80 carry comp from the side of Divine Ascension Obsidian is scaling, but we're not going to see anything. It's a Seraphine Nautilus. Don't get baited by the ghost being popped. We're not going to see any sort of interaction happening in the bot side, but it is scary for the side of Divine Ascension Obsidian. They are picking up good team fights. or sorry, for the side of Death Cards Academy, because Divine Ascension Obsidian are picking up the good team fights, but they're also picking up these key items on both of these AD carries, and we're getting to a point where they are going to be able to kind of outscale the comp. And the big member I want to call out is Sterling Archer. He had a 4-0 gold lead. He had a lot of that early game cold funneled into him, but he hasn't been able to get anything done besides that. Going from 4-1 to 0-5 is pretty problematic, but Darius looking for a solo kill.
He is going to use this ghost on a Fug Nuggler, who already used his own ghost, so he's not going to be able to ghost away from this fight. He's already going to be calling the Forge God, trying to find this 1v1 kill, but his team has arrived, and that is going to be another kill on the Galaxy from water. But
yeah,
it does look like Obsidian wants to start this Baron.
Obsidian is gonna kind of just pressure around the Baron. They see the ward in the back of the pit, so they know that Death Cards Academy does have vision on this, but it feels like they're just gonna be able to burst it down. But we see the TP from Fug in the backline. They might be able to catch them out.
2 TPs coming in, Patrick Jones in the backline, but he's already gonna be CC'd from that Nautilus ult. Saturation not taking enough on this Nautilus. Patrick trying to find a 1v1 in the backline onto the Seraphine, but there's so much damage coming out from Sterling. He's finally showing, yes, I'm still ahead on this Diana pick, doing so much damage. That is the clean ace for Death Cards Academy, looking to take this Baron.
And what a wombo combo from Sterling and Uwu right there. They landed a beautiful Zyra ultimate into the Diana ultimate. Every single person was just locked into the bounce house, as I'll call it, and they end up picking up the Baron, and that's kind of the big objective that's going to really break open this game, because again, Mountain Soul is up in 8 seconds, and they're going to be able to just run over to that objective and pick it up, and it feels like they've just broken open this game that was getting really, really close.
It definitely did feel like Death Cards was behind in this game, but they were never less than 5k ahead of Divine Ascension Obsidian, and now it is definitely showing as they are able to pick up this Baron straight into this Mountain Soul, and now we're going to be looking to have this Elder fight in around 6 minutes, which that could very definitely decide this game.
And that's definitely a crucial mistake from the side of Divine Ascension Obsidian. It is weird for casters to say that Death Cards Academy felt like they were behind, but they felt like they were losing teamfight after teamfight, and the scaling was coming up for the side of Divine Ascension Obsidian, but they ended up locking themselves into that pit. They should have known that double TPs were up, but Corky decided
to suicide into Galaxy in this mid lane, but that's going to be his own shutdown, going over to water and landing another hook onto Patrick, but he does have EA. Oh my gosh, Patrick doing so much damage on this Lee Sin pick, finding a really nice kill onto Risky, but he is trying to do anything into this backline. Sterling finding yet another excellent Diana ult onto the backline. Water still not dead on this Darius, though. He is almost going to find another kill before he dies, but is not going to find it, and Risky is just forced to run for his life on the Xayah.
And I'm going to call foul play from Void there, because that looked like an absolute int, but it feels like Divine Ascension Obsidian feel like maybe that's the only way they can try to get something done, because when you have the Mountain Soul on the Ornn, when you have this big gold lead for the side of Death Cards Academy, maybe this felt like it was desperation. Maybe they felt like they just had to try something, but it looks like Death Cards Academy is just going to look to end, but they don't have Galaxy. This might be suspect.
They do not have Galaxy, but Patrick does a lot of damage on this Lee Sin, and again, he does still have the Guardian Angel passive available. It is not still burned. That's unfortunately the Seraphine ult just going wide a little bit, and they are looking to end this game one. Death Cards Academy doing all the damage to the Nexus. This is going to be Death Cards Academy taking game one against Divine Ascension Obsidian.
Yeah, in 29 minutes, it felt like Death Cards Academy had the lead early on. They were kind of fumbling the bag for a little bit, but they end up picking it back with a beautiful double TP into that Baron play. Great play from Death Cards Academy to really kind of snowball the lead that they had early on, even though they didn't end up making mistakes. And it's kind of a good sign for the side of Death Cards, because, again, it's not the cleanest game that we've seen, but it feels like even when they do end up kind of being in a disadvantaged situation in the mid game, somebody on their team's like, guys, we're kind of throwing this game. Let's just reset our minds and kind of look for what made us work, which were those double TP plays. And at the end of the day, great game by Fug, great game by Patrick, and it felt like every single member on the side of Death Cards Academy just kind of stepped up as the fights went on, and great play from them.
It was definitely interesting to see Death Cards take the early game so well, but then start to make little mistakes in the mid game that Obsidian was able to pick up and make their own leads out of pretty well up until they threw that last fight that ended the game, very unfortunately for them. But it is going to be fun to see how it ends out in these next two games. And we're going to be throwing it over to the analysis desk with Mac and Icarus to give you some more analysis on this game one.
Let me make sure I'm not muted here before hopping into the analyst desk. Everyone, welcome. What an absolutely crazy game number one between Divine Ascension Obsidian and Death Cards Academy. Icarus, it went back and forth between these two teams. Which players stood out to you in game number one?
I gotta give it to the Ornn in the top lane. This man's pulling out solo kills versus a Darius. I talked for so long about how bad of a matchup that is for Fug Nuggler, and then he just makes it look so clean and easy. Also, playing with that teleport the entire game, saving that Baron for DCA alongside Patrick Jones with a double teleport into the pit. Phenomenal work here coming in from the Death Cards Academy squad.
And that key fight, the shot calling from Death Cards Academy, Icarus, they got the pick they wanted in the bot lane. I think they took down What Are You Doing, right?
I have no idea what they were doing in the bottom lane. I was really curious to see what Saturation was doing all game down there when we talked about their win condition being topside around this Darius. And then Diana shows up, Sterling Archer with the insane 1v3 outplay, picks up the triple kill. And they'd already lost a couple of kills here, one in the top lane, one in the bottom lane, that had already been given over to Diana. But when she finds that Moonfall, oof. Chef's kiss to that play right there, came out beautifully and really projectile DCA into the lead. We did have a lot of back and forth this game between DAO and DCA, but with that early game lead, it felt like they were losing control, but that they had control the majority of the game is how I defined it.
Well, we are going to go to a quick interview. Actually, Icarus, you caught up a little bit with the Death Cards Academy top laner. Let's see your conversation with the one and only Fug Nuggler.
Ladies and gentlemen, to week 5 here of XLNC mid-league interviews. My name's Icarus, and I'm joined on the desk by none other than a member of the Death Cards Academy squad. Go ahead and introduce yourself, my man.
Guys, I'm the captain of Death Cards, Fug Nuggler, SPU, otherwise the top laner, and sometimes shot caller. So yeah, that's basically me.
You mentioned that you're a sometimes shot caller. I was going to ask you right off the bat here. You're the top laner, you're the captain. What's your biggest role on the team, and how do you help influence the players around you? What do you provide as a personality for Death Cards Academy?
Yeah, I'm more of what I'd call, I guess, like a planner. So I try to keep people on track with what our game plan is ahead of time. I mean, people have seen me do a lot of spreadsheet stuff, right? I love doing spreadsheets before games. I map out all of the champion pools, everything we're going to draft, everything they're going to draft, all our flex picks, what's priority, and then I'll write out, like, if we're going to go this comp, then we need to prioritize these, or we're going to give exactly 2 dragons, and then we're going to turn on the third one, and blah, blah, blah. And so I don't usually in the game call specifically, we're going to go for this fight, or we're going to turn on this guy, or whatever, but I'll be calling like, hey, our game plan is to go for this objective, don't do this, or make sure you back at this time, and I'm yelling at people for back timers, or setting up like vision control and stuff, right? So making sure people keep on track and don't get too hyped is more so what I'm doing for general game plan, whereas the like kind of more day-to-day shot calling is usually Patrick or Sterling Archer, that kind of stuff.
Looking into this next week, are you guys eager to come back, bouncing stronger than ever in a 3-0 versus Divine Ascension Obsidian? How are you guys feeling about this matchup, and is there anyone in particular you guys are worried about looking at this upcoming week?
We've actually played them before, so I think DAO was one of the other teams that moved up from Light League, so I have a decent amount of experience playing against them because I played in Light League last season. So I was not very concerned. They're kind of doing about as I expected. Little bit surprising that they 3-0'd the old Degenerate squad, considering the old squad did win Light League, but I mean, they're not exactly the same players on DAO, so they are a slightly better roster, and clearly they've been trying to improve, so I'm not super afraid of them, I would say. We've scrimmed their team, and we're fairly convincingly stronger all around. I think it's a big rank disparity for them, right? It's very hard for them they're doing an uphill battle against us. If they're going to beat us, they kind of need to have better team play, and I think we've kind of improved past the point where we're no longer dropping games because our team play is really terrible. We're dropping games because we're making early game mistakes and getting snowballed on, or those kind of things, right? Which is, you know, everyone has stupid games, sometimes stupid early game mistakes. It happens to every team, right? Yeah. We're not super upset over dropping a game in that fashion, But at the beginning of the season, we were more dropping games off bad coordination and being punished by teams like SBS, right? Like Shadowblade Slash. I don't think DAO is going to be strong enough laning wise to beat us, and I don't think our synergy is bad enough they can punish us that way either. So we're definitely expecting a 3-0, but maybe they will surprise us.
We are heading over that halfway hump of the season. So going to week 4 into week 5, there's only 9 weeks through the regular season. So we're halfway through now, going over that official 4.5 point. You guys have a few weeks of games underneath your belt. I want to know, looking into the future, you have some hard games coming up. I know that we got Divine Ascension this week, but following that, you guys have CB Rush, which is going to be a tough matchup. Are you guys excited for your upcoming weeks here? Do you guys feel confident going towards playoffs? Do you guys think you'll be able to make the top? Because we were mentioning before, you're in that grinder. How are you guys feeling looking towards your next few weeks, and do you guys think you're going to be able to make playoffs?
So I think definitely, I think it's like not really a question in my mind whether we're a playoff contention. I mean, it's just top 6, right, to get playoffs. So we're definitely kind of set in that top 4. It's more so who's going to break into that top 2 spot is like the bigger question in my mind, because I think initially we beat Fever pretty early, so we were feeling pretty confident that, oh, you know, they had an easy week 1 and whatever. But after they 3-0'd Bucky's, I think they kind of silenced a lot of people saying, you know, that Fever wasn't actually that good and they were just beating bottom teams and whatever, right? So they're definitely going to be contender. Obviously, we're not going to play them again, so it's just going to be up to how we do against other teams. But as we have to play CB Rush and Fever has to play CB Rush, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, since we are currently tied. Since we have the bye coming up, we're basically tied, right? So they kind of have to continue stomping to stay ahead of us since we have the head-to-head. So looking forward to that. As far as No Fear Wolves, even though we have the same record as we did against Fever, I feel like their record is a little bit more inflated. I think they probably have had the easiest schedule. I think they haven't played Fever, they haven't played Bucky's, they haven't played CBR. Like, they've basically played none of the really top teams. So No Fear Wolves is a team I'm a little bit worried for in that aspect, as well as when we played them. They were kind of like cute Raichu 1v9s, or their team has a bad time, was my experience playing against them. He had a really big pop-off Rumble game where we were winning for most of the game, then he had a really insane team fight, and they closed out the game, and blah, 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 whatever, right? But the rest of the games, when he did not get ahead, and Patrick was able to hold down on him, their team just kind of fell apart, and I feel like that's not a consistent enough strategy. So I'm more thinking about it's Bucky's, Fever, and us for that second place spot, and Bucky just got beaten by Fever, so obviously I'm thinking it's more between us to be in those top 2, and until someone takes down CB Rush, I know they also have a lot of harder opponents to play, but they've been winning so convincingly, if you look at their stats, that I'm willing to believe that they are the top team until I see someone prove me otherwise. So they are destroying teams at kind of, I'm willing to believe it levels. So for now, I'm thinking them as my kind of undisputed number 1, but yeah, we'll see.
You guys have CB Rush to still play against here. Are you guys more afraid of Fever or CB Rush in terms of like standings and in terms of like how these teams play?
Yeah, definitely CB Rush in my mind. I mean, we've already played Fever. We kind of know the gist of how they play. I think stylistically, we're just happen to be a really good matchup for how Fever goes. Fever's a very farm-intensive late-game team. Like, if you look at their stuff, Stubby has a crazy KDA. Their ADC is like the best farmer in the league and has a really good KDA as well, right? They like late game. They pick Kale a lot, that kind of stuff, right? We are the monkey early game, go hard, get 4 dragons as quickly as possible and close out the game in 30 minutes kind of team, right? Like, we love playing like super aggressive flex picks, Lee Sin mid top, like a Kali, that kind of stuff, right? Where we're diving people in. And I think our play style is just a good matchup for them, because if you're playing as a team that you have to know how to close out against, which I think really punishes lower rated teams that maybe can't close as hard. We're a team that all we do is practice closing. We're inconsistent because we play early game comps every game, and we put ourselves in a position where we have to play better to close out the game at the end, right? So I think we do sometimes dig our own grave with our drafts, but I think that stylistically it's a much easier matchup. Whereas versus CB Rush, they're a team that also likes to play really mechanical champs and outplay you and win all of their lanes. And it's like, if we're playing a team that likes to play towards early game, and we're playing versus a team that may beat us in top mid jungle early game. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna kind of throw off our game plan. So we're gonna have to see how we adapt to them.
Fug Nuggler, do you have any final words, any shout outs you want to give anybody, any social medias you want to plug or anything like that before we call it a day here?
I'll give a shout out to Patrick, stuck in European time zone, so he couldn't come to the interview. I know a lot of people would love to see him talk shit and pipe up against Zongi and stuff. So sorry, guys. He had work in 8 hours when I finished work, so unfortunately he couldn't make the scheduling for this that easily. But yeah, and also shout out to Alan, who financed us being in this league, the head of SDC. So big props to Alan for letting us represent him and for bankrolling it so we can have some fun. So hopefully we can get him his money back as well as have some fun. So we'll see. But he's definitely a chill dude, not super on us, just wants to have fun, loves watching the games, and he's super excited to, I'm sure he's going to bring the boys for this stream.
Hey, bring the boys, bring everybody, bring the whole SCC over here so that we can get them to watch you guys play. But thank you so much, Fug Nuggler, for joining me on the stream here today and for taking this time for this interview with me. Appreciate it a lot.